Good afternoon and welcome to the Financial Alchemist. And today I want to show you how to live on about $1,000 per month. Now, for comparison purposes, I do live in the United States, which is ranked as the 13th most expensive country on the planet. And I also live in the state of Florida. Now, for comparison purposes, I am a household of one, so all these expenses are for just one person, not for a family. However, for next month's breakdown, you may notice an extra face you haven't seen before. So my November expenses may have some extra line items for the cat there, but for October I didn't have a cat, so it didn't factor into my expenses for that month. Now with that said, let's dive right into it. So for food, I went to the grocery store about once a week and I spent $146.66 on food for the entire month. How do I do that? Well, it's simple. I shop at the cheap places, Walmart, Aldi, the dollar store. I get, the store brand products. I save a lot of money that way. It works very well for me. And so I don't spend a lot of money on groceries. Now, I do spend fair bit of money on like restaurants and fast food, but as far as groceries, that's about half the total food budget there. Now for mid-range restaurants, I went 4 times this month, averaging $14.98 per meal, because for me a mid-range restaurant is about $10 to $20 a plate. So my cheapest restaurant meal was $10.68, my most expensive was $19.26. I spent a total of $59.90 on mid-range restaurants for the entire month. For fast food, I went to fast food 12 times this month, averaging $5.69 per meal. That's because for me, fast food should never cost more than $10 a meal. I get, the $5 meal deal, $6 meal deal. I just get, the affordable meals like that. You can get, a decent amount of food for not a lot of money. Fast food doesn't have to be expensive if you know where to go. And my cheapest fast food meal for the month was $3.21. The most expensive was $7.80. That means I spent a total of $68.33 on fast food for the entire month. Next, the total food budget was $274.89 on food for the entire month. All right, next, fuel. I went to the gas station 4 times this month, averaging $17.71 per fill-up. So I spent $70.83 on fuel for the entire month. Now my car gets around 28 miles per gallon, give or take. I have a little over 10 miles to work each way, so I have a modest amount of driving, nothing too excessive. So when I bought this house here, I intentionally wanted to get one that was fairly close to work, so I wanted to keep the driving down to both save time and save money. Next, entertainment. I had some friends in the house this month. I ordered pizza delivery twice. I didn't include that in the food budget because my friends ate much of it. I didn't eat all the food, so it doesn't count for everything. But the total comes to exactly $40 for both deliveries. Nice little coincidence there. So utilities. Now this here is my September electric bill, which I paid during the month of October, and you're now watching on November 1st. So this is my last of my summertime electric bills, and like I said, I live in Florida, and during the summertime, I run air conditioning 24 hours a day. But the electric bill for the next month after this has already come in. It's about $50 less than this. So next month's breakdown, I'll have a much less money on my electric bill. But for this month, this is my last summertime bill, so it's going to be a bit higher than I would like. Water sewer, $68.10. So that's about the same as it was the month before. Overall, pretty similar. There's not much I can do there because about 60 of that is flat fees, and the last couple of dollars is the actual amount of water I use. So even if I cut back on water usage, I can save like $5. That's about it. Internet, $30 a month. I'm going to say it right now. You do not need gigabit Ethernet. I say again, you do not need gigabit Ethernet. Unless you have like 10 people living with you, the simple 100 megabyte per second plan will work just fine. If you have a family of 2 to 4 people, the cheap plan, $30 a month, should work just fine for most people. You don't need to get the more expensive plans unless you're actually using all that bandwidth. So in total, utilities is $255.76. So it's overall quite affordable, which is pretty similar to some previous months. That's exactly what I want it to be, and it should be down to about $200 for next month when I do my November breakdown, but this is for October. So I'm doing what I can to save money there, trying to cut back on my electrical usage here and there. But overall, it's a good life. I have a nice, comfortable life. I spend, what I need to spend on utilities, and then, that works for my lifestyle here. Next, car insurance. You may notice the last 3 months in a row, I did not put any line item for car insurance. Well, that's because I prepay 6 months in advance. So my 6-month policy cost me $323.36, averaging $53.88 per month. Now you might be thinking, hang on, you said you live in Florida. They're notorious for very expensive car insurance. How did you get it down to $50 a month? Well, like I said, I prepay 6 months in advance because I get a very large discount if I pay all 6 months at once. If I pay it by the month, it's higher, quite a bit higher. I also have a military discount in there because I serve in the military. I also did get a discount because now I own a house. Apparently I'm responsible or something, so they gave me a discount for that. So, just go ahead and look at your insurance provider, see what kind of discounts they can offer you, and see what you can do to get your insurance policy low. And of course, I don't crash my car. I'm a safe driver. And so I do what I can to save money. And, I would like to be lower than this. It was a bit less than this a couple years ago when I first signed up for it, but, is what it is. All right, other. This is my last category of just miscellaneous expenses, getting random household items, things that don't really have a category, so $130.29. So to recap, I spent about $275 on food for the whole month, about $71 on fuel for my car, $40 entertainment, about $256 on utilities, $323 for insurance on my car, and then $130 on other. So what's my grand total for the entire month? $1,095.13. Absolutely fantastic. Now you may remember for some of my previous monthly breakdowns, I said my goal is to live on $1,000 per month or less on average for the entire year. My last 3 months in a row, I was at less than $1,000 per month every month. This is my first month since starting the channel where I'm over $1,000 for the month. But taking into account the last couple months were under $1,000, I'm still averaging less than $1,000 per month for my actual expenses. So I get to my end of year breakdown, which I will do in the first week of January. I plan to average $1,000 per month or less for the entire year. So some months are a little bit over, some months a little bit under. That's totally fine. Now you might be thinking, hang on, aren't you missing a few categories? Like, where's your housing, your mortgage, your rent? Where is that? Well, this house here, I've already got the house fully paid off. I have several videos on the channel about how to buy a house for cash, how to avoid having a mortgage, how to find affordable houses. So if you want to know how to do that, I can teach you how to do that. And of course, by not having a mortgage on the house, it gives you some options. Like, for example, where's my homeowner's insurance? Well, I don't have to have it. The banks require you to have it, but if you're a cash buyer like me, you don't have to have insurance. And insuring a house is thousands of dollars per year, and when you go to make a claim, sometimes they reject you, sometimes they accept you. It's not a very reliable form of insurance. So I've decided to do what's called being self-insured, meaning I don't put any money on homeowner's insurance, I save thousands per year, and then I simply pay cash for repairs as they come up. So if there's never anything catastrophic, I save vast amounts of money, and if something does happen, I'll just pay cash for repairs. And instead of waiting for an insurance company to approve my claim, I can approve my own claim day one, pull out a checkbook, and just pay for repairs. So for me, I find it works better. I can save money in the short term, possibly save money in the long term, but I get more control over how my money is spent because I'm not giving it to an insurance company hoping they give me money in the future. I don't have to rely on an unreliable service. I can just take care of it myself. Or about some other expenses? What about property taxes? Well, just like the car insurance, I don't pay the property taxes every month. It's due in the month of November. So for the October breakdown, no property taxes, but for the November breakdown, there should be a rather hefty amount. It will make it a very expensive month for me. But nonetheless, my property taxes should be substantially less than the national average because this house here only cost me $100,000 and taxes are based on the value of the house. So overall, my taxes shouldn't be that much compared to the national average. It should be affordable. But that's one line item you don't see for this month of October, but it should be there for next month. Or what about other things like, debt payments? Well, don't I have like credit cards and student loans and car notes? The answer is no. I live the debt-free lifestyle. I either use cash or debit card for everything I buy. If I don't have the money for it, I don't buy it. And so, I have no credit cards, never have, never will. I have no car note. I pay cash for my car like I pay cash for my house. Same thing for my college degrees, pay cash for those as well. Didn't borrow any money, no student loans. And so for me, I live in the debt-free lifestyle. It means I have very few monthly bills. And so, if you look at this, you realize, these are all necessary expenses I basically have to pay to stay alive, Food, fuel, entertainment, utilities, car insurance, miscellaneous. I mean, you really can't save much more than this, maybe a couple bucks here and there. Maybe, I go to restaurants a little bit less often or something. But overall, this is about as low as I can get it. Now, if it wasn't for the car insurance, I'd be at about almost $700 for the entire month, which is what I was the past couple of months. But, when it comes to, surviving on about $1,000 per month, that's how you do it. Now, with that said, there is one more bonus slide. And I know only 10% of my audience actually watches to the very end, so for those of you who stuck around, here you go. This is a separate line item completely. For my hobbies this month, I spent $1,491.73 on my hobbies. So that's more than what my necessary expenses were for the entire month. Now for me, I didn't include it under the budget because this is a separate line item for me. This is necessary expenses I literally have to pay to stay alive. This right here, this is optional. I don't have to spend it, so if times get tight, I can just cut out the hobbies and stop buying for a while. And the things I bought can potentially be sold again in the future. This is money that I've spent. I'm never getting this back. But if I decide to sell some of the things I have, I can maybe, get back a little bit of money. So it's not necessarily money lost. It's money spent, which could potentially be recouped later. And it's, something that I can cut out of future budgets if my budget ever gets tight. So for me, that's how I've decided to include it in the budget. And so when it comes to the end of year breakdown, I'm going to have my total expenses here as a one line item for how much I have to spend to stay alive. I'll have a separate line item for my hobbies. Also have a separate line item for things like health insurance because I pay that directly through my employer. So that's not on the monthly breakdown, but it's about $100-ish per month. And so that'll be included at my end of year breakdown. All right, so that's how you live on about $1,000-ish per month. And of course, I still have a good life. I have money for hobbies, money for entertainment, hang out with friends. I live a very comfortable life. It's a really great life. Like, life doesn't have to be expensive. The United States is a very expensive place to live, but you can have a great life affordably. Isn't that right there? All right. So if you have any questions about how I live on such a low budget, go ahead and drop a little in the comment section. I'd love to answer your questions. Otherwise, thanks for watching and have a great day.